We're cooked. We're cooked. We're cooked. That's my take.
Earlier today, I sat down with President Trump in the Oval Office for an exclusive interview on his 100th day of his second term. It was a great opportunity to ask him some wide-ranging questions about the issues that most concern so many Americans.
Also, let it not be forgotten that they have literal fascist propaganda on the White House to the point where they can't even find an angle to stand in front of it without seeing it waving in the background.
We talked about the economy and his tariffs. We talked about immigration and those deportations. And you can see here the White House has put up some posters that they say show some of the violent criminals that have so far been deported.
Insane.
About a lot more
Insane.
as well. The president's answers were provocative, at times combative, and always he was strong in his convictions about his policies. But before we get to the interview, we begin tonight with a look inside the Oval Office that Donald Trump has transformed.
Hello, everybody. How are you? This is the Oval Office. This is the Resolute Desk, which is really something very special.
It's an affront to everything the United States stands for that he is behind this Resolute Desk, not only once, but twice. Okay? And look, the Gulf of America in the background, like, it's so stupid. Oh, my God.
Spectacular. There's nothing quite like it. And they give you a choice of about 7 different desks, but this is the one I chose. Ronald Reagan had it. FDR had it. A few people had it, but I found it to be the most beautiful.
He makes Ronald Reagan look like Mahatma Gandhi, yo.
And amazing, maybe architecturally wonderful, but amazing for what it represents. It represents the U.S., and if properly used, a lot of good things can happen.
I see Ronald Reagan over there.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
Right to your left.
All
Being
this is
in the
his
Oval
fault, by
Office
the way.
is
Everything he
very
did.
important. See Ronald Reagan here, and put him a little bit larger. It sort of seemed to fit very nicely. You have Democrats a little bit. You have
Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt. So you look at that picture.
He didn't even know who that was, yo.
And people say, well, what's he doing up there? But look, he was a serious president, whether we like it or not. He was a 4-termer, and
That's what he looks up to, by the way.
went through a war. You have Lincoln, you have Washington, but you look over here, that's Monroe, the Monroe Doctrine.
Why is he up there?
I think the Monroe Doctrine was pretty important. That was his claim to fame. Over here, you have the original of Abraham
Doesn't even know what it
Lincoln and
is,
George
I bet you.
Washington, and of course, you have the Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
This used to be like in a museum, by the way, and he demanded that it gets moved to the White House. You used to be able to just look at this. Now you can't. So.
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot. And it's something very special to our country.
Lincoln's portrait up there. I'm not familiar with that one, but I think when I'm looking at that famous line in the second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity toward all.
Well, he was a great president. He went through a lot.
And the Oval Office is always changing between presidents. And
Is it just me, or is this kind of giving the vibe of like an adult talking to a child? And it's like, yeah, buddy, Lincoln said be nice to people, right? Right, buddy?
Changes,
says something.
It does.
What does this say about how you feel about the country and the office?
Well, I think it says I love the country. I mean, I'm putting pictures of presidents up that have never been up, pictures that weren't largely used, and in many cases, great men, in this case men, but great men of great achievement.
And your every detail, it seems.
Yeah.
This is your office.
Unironically, if I was from like the year 2300 and I saw this video, I would assume that this was the president, right? He can actually string together a coherent sentence. Not this guy.
A very detailed person. I'm a very clean person. I like cleanliness.
He's the dirtiest old man ever, yo. Ask his Hollywood connects. He's dirty. He's dirty. Everyone's saying he smells like diaper. He ain't clean. I
like to see this space be treated properly. I've added a lot to the space in terms of beautification, In terms of modernization, that's
Oh,
a
just this
gallery of
gold
presidents.
it really is. It really is.
nonsense
So,
everywhere.
And it's an honor to have you people with us.
Whatever. I don't really care about like the White House office. It's not sacred to me. You know, I really don't care.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Here in the Oval Office, it's special. 100 days into your...
What a silhouette. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the interview yet, but what a silhouette, yo. The only person with a more iconic silhouette is probably Batman, because just look, his cowlick, you know what I mean? His turkey neck, like, you know what I mean? It's like when he's to the side, you know exactly who he is. You know, I'll give him that. Even his outfit, it's like a cartoon character. Navy blue suit, red tie. You know what I mean? Orange skin. You know, his character design kind of goes off, I'm not going to lie.
second term. So what's the one thing, just one thing, that you think is the most significant thing you've done so far in these 100 days?
Destroy democracy.
Well, I think maybe the border is the most significant because our country was really going bad. They were allowing people to come in from prisons, as you know, and you've heard me say it, but you've heard a lot of people say it. Prisons, mental institutions, gang members.
I feel like people are starting to forget this, but the president used to deal in like facts, you know? Like, oh, you know, the study from this institution says that X statistic is happening between the dates of this and this, right? It used to be the expectation that the president actually knew what he was talking about. Now he's just kind of freewheeling, you know what I mean? I'll give it this to Trump. I don't know if he has a speechwriter. I don't know if he can read. I don't know if he can read. He just goes off the top of his head, you know? And that's what he's doing here. I mean, not that I would expect him to prepare a lot for an interview, but you got to know that this is like the first thing they're going to ask you about, especially since this is an open-ended question. You're like, hey, what do you think your biggest achievement is? You don't even have stats to back it up. You know what I mean? You don't even have stats. You know, it's purely vibes. It's a vibes-based presidency. The vibes are bad.
Murderers, we had many murders, 11,888, they think. Some murdered more than one person. So you had murderers coming in, you had everybody coming in, and not just South America, from all over the world. They were emptying their prisons into our country, and now it's totally closed down. And
the prison empty, and you're in our country, yo. Mind you, again, it's like, I think it's so rich. He's talking about criminals this, criminals that. Excuse me, you were going to jail before all this. You know what I mean? You're literally using the presidency as a get-out-of-jail-free card. You're the greatest American criminal of all time. You try to overthrow the republic, dummy.
you've seen just yesterday.
Look at this fool's face, yo. And again, it's like he is a mainstream media journalist. I'm not gonna put him on any pedestal here, but it's like you gotta respect the fact that he's like, what the hell are you talking about, dog? Like, what are you talking about?
And that's
His eyebrows literally raised.
99.9%. Nobody thought that could happen. And it happened quickly, very quickly. And I think that's very significant. But we're doing other things that are very significant. Results will take a little bit longer because it's one of those, you know, it's
He's pretty.
complicated.
He looks like Oppenheimer.
It's, many years of trading abuse. We've been abused by other countries for years and years. They laughed at us. They thought we were stupid people. And
they're laughing at us now, fool. They're laughing at us now, fool. That's also what I never understood. It's like, oh, you know, people don't respect America. People don't respect Joe Biden. You think they're gonna respect this used car salesman who's the same color as an Oompa Loompa? Do you think that's what's gonna get us the respect? Like, look around. This is how you know people have no international experience, right? You don't need to have left the United States in order to have an international experience. You just need to have your eyes open. Like, there are places other than America, and their world doesn't revolve around us. You know what I mean? It's like they can call a spade a spade. Trump's charisma only works within the United States. It's highly culturally targeted.
we're fixing it. And I think that's going to be very, very important. But I
We have a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, I would really say that the border is so important. You know, you just
And
can't
we'll get there.
let that
Immigration,
happen.
huge.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there. But I want to start
Sure.
with the economy, the number one issue for so many people.
Again, reminder that we had the best economy of all time, right? You know what I mean? Maybe not the best economy. Economy is a more macro term, but as far as the stock market goes, it was like amongst the best that the United States has ever seen. Now we're in a new world order where we're in a trade war with the whole entire world, and an economic recession is practically guaranteed, and a depression is becoming more and more likely. He crashed that by himself, and everyone around him advised him not to do it. All right? That's the reality. Let's see what he responds with.
About everybody It's one of the main reasons that you're back in this office. And now we have this
Insanity.
trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually.
The first time I've ever agreed with something this man said. They did sign up for it. These fools did sign up for it. Open a book. Look at what he's saying. Watch a Trump. I said this on my TikTok. I really don't believe that Trump supporters watch his speeches because because there's no way you could walk away from that being like, man, what an eloquent man. They listen to his sound bites or they see his quotes in headlines. You know, he likes the fact that he riles it up, that he moves the needle. You know, he shakes things up, but they don't know what they voted for. They don't know what they voted for. You know what I mean? I try to talk to people that have sympathies for Trump. Maybe not full-on Trump supporters, but just people that I know. It's like, oh, Trump's not so bad. I'll just bring up stuff that he said, and they're like, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? Yeah, he's an idiot, obviously.
Actually, and this is what I campaigned on.
It is.
I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing $3 to $5 billion a day on trade.
Lies.
We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year.
Lies.
Not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen. But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. You know, I had the best economy during my first term. We had a
That was Obama's economy. That was Obama's economy. Because guess what? When Trump got in, it was going up, right? But once he started implementing his economic agenda, the growth of the United States economy slowed down, right? It was still going up. It was still improving, but it slowed considerably from when Obama left. And at the tail end, it crashed. Now, it crashed because of COVID. Donald Trump didn't cause COVID, to my knowledge. I wouldn't put it past him. But you know, it crashed because of that. And while yes, like there's not much he could have done to stop that, there were infrastructures in place in the United States created by Obama to stop a pandemic, and he destroyed it, right? Because a black man started it. Okay, so his first term, I feel like people really have short-term memory because his first term was just as chaotic, and this one is just a continuation of all the stuff that he was doing.
tremendous economy, tremendous success, and we did tremendous numbers of tariffs on. We took in a lot of money from tariffs. China in particular, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We had no inflation, as you know. We had an incredible economy. We're given credit for a great economy. But I said, we have to fix this, otherwise it's just not self-sustaining.
Well, one of the things you ran on was you'd said you'd bring price.
And it's so bizarre because this man, right, I forgot his name, but this man is an accredited journalist. He has spoken to politicians his entire career, right? And he clearly has like the tenor of someone that speaks to a politician because he's very eloquent, you know, and measured, and his questions are well thought out. Donald Trump responds to things like a celebrity. Oh, you know, yeah, you know, blah, 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 yada, 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 you know? And let's be real here, that's why he won. You know, that's why he won, because people can understand him, and Americans are kind of stupid. Myself included, but
Prices down on day one,
Yeah,
and that
and
it
I
would
have.
happen fast, and that it would happen fast.
I
And
have.
most economists will tell you that tariffs will raise prices.
They will.
Don't your tariffs cut against that promise you made to bring prices down?
No, because I had massive tariffs on China, if you remember, in my first
not as big as this.
term, and we had essentially no inflation, like around 1% inflation, which is like a perfect number. And then when Biden took over, it went through the roof. It went to probably the worst inflation we've ever had.
And it's so funny because, like, if you ask him, Trump, your economy crashed at the end. Why did it do that? Oh, because of the China virus. Oh, Mr. President, Joe Biden's presidency started with record inflation. Oh, that was his fault. It's doublethink. It's literally 1984 style doublethink.
I mean, we had an inflation nightmare. Now, if you look at what's happening now, we're only there for 100 days, as you say, and in 100 days, we took over. We had bad inflation for 4 years, for 2 years of, especially 2 years of his administration. I would say record-setting like we've never seen. They say 48 years, the worst in 48 years. I say it was much worse than that.
Yeah.
Right. So now if you look at what's happened, energy is down. Gasoline hit $1.98 in a few states during the last couple of days. It was $3.50 and $4 and $4.50. But gasoline is way down. When I took over, you remember the big thing with eggs. They hit me the first week. Eggs, 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 like it was my fault. I said, I didn't cause this problem. This problem was caused by Biden. What's the problem with eggs? And they said, they've doubled. And well, eggs are down 87% since I got involved.
A lot of that is
and
bird
by the way,
flu,
and there
right?
were plenty of eggs for Easter, which we just went through. There were plenty of eggs for Easter.
Look, I'm no journalist, but let's try to fact check these claims. Some experts say this claim is misleading. Consumer egg prices have climbed 25% since January.
My secretary did a fantastic job on eggs. Groceries are down. Everything's down.
Okay.
Interest rates are the same. Interest rates should be down, but we have a Federal Reserve that wants to be stubborn. They want to be cute.
We'll get to that. You said something a couple of weeks ago that struck me. You said concerning the tariffs, which economists say are going to raise prices, you said, quote, hang tough. Yeah. It won't be easy. You said that to the American people. Is that what Americans should expect? Some hard.
By the way, if Joe Biden said that, there would be riots in the streets. Just hang tough. I know I screwed it up, but just take the L for my mistake, and everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. Just pay more. What's the problem? But the thing is, it's like that represents the problem because people espouse or people do apologetics for Donald Trump from a very quote unquote logical place. Like they love to think of themselves as just these genius conservatives that just know how the world works and what needs to be done in order to make everything function. But once their mad king of a president starts pulling levers and shit that he has no understanding of, they have to switch their whole mentality. It's like, oh, I don't mind paying more. It's better to pay more. It's better to be poor. I love being poor because what he has isn't a political base. He has a cult. You know what I mean? And that point is getting beaten to the ground, but it's continuing to be true. Like you don't have a platform. You have people that just want to see you win. You know what I mean? Which is cool if you're like a rapper or something, but who's in charge of the most powerful nation in the world should probably be based on merit, right? I don't know.
Times
I've said that during my campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. We had a tremendous campaign. I said all these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period. We've been ripped off by every country all over the world. They're laughing at us. They thought we were stupid people.
They are laughing at us. They do think we're stupid.
I said, that's not going to happen. We're
but
not going to let that happen.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I think great times are ahead. Look, since I came in, gasoline is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything. You don't have the drop in fuel and energy and oil like we did. I took it from maybe $3.20, maybe more than that, down into a much lower number.
A problem that I have with this too, and look, I understand that ABC is a company and they need money and they get money by interviewing people of power, and they can't just call Donald Trump out to his face, although I think that does happen a little bit later in this interview. But we need some kind of fact checking because this is the problem. Like the mainstream media gives him a platform and he lies, and they're too slow to run the facts. So the lie just goes around the world 1,000 times before the truth even gets its shoes on. You know what I mean? If anything, they should drop an edited version of this interview with the fact checking right next to his stupid little head. That's what they should be doing. It would be viewed as a hostile and political action, but who's your loyalty to? The president or the people that are actually watching your program, yo?
When you have that kind of a drop, you're not going to have inflation.
Not now, but it's the tariffs, right? We still have
Not now.
145% tariffs on
Why
China.
is it
Your
that-
Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're
and
trying
that-
to say something's
No,
going to happen,
no,
Terry.
no. Okay, well,
Of course something's gonna happen. Of course something's gonna happen, dummy. Of course something's gonna happen. That's why you did it, to make stuff happen. Well, this is what's happening. What?
Nothing's going to happen.
you know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
Terry, I do know business.
Yes,
and
so
No, you don't. No, you don't. He's bankrupted 6 times. I've been bankrupted 0. Okay? I know more about business than this fool. Just objectively. 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 Right? Objectively.
145% tariffs on China, and that is
That's good.
basically
That's
an
good.
embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on
They
everything
deserve
from
it.
electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going
That's
to eat
mathematics.
it. China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad.
And this is also the problem of running the United States or any country like a business, because the function of a government isn't to make money, it's to provide a good life for its citizens, right? It's does that sound libby? Does that sound liberal? Like, it's not, having a country isn't a quest for infinite power. Now sometimes countries do need to seize power in order to protect their citizens or create better lives for their citizens. So I get that there is somewhat of a gray area, but ripping us off, it's like we're not playing cards. To quote a better president, we're not playing cards, Like, we're the richest nation in the world. Of course they're ripping us off, and that's probably not even accurate either.
If you look at
We're ripping them off. Like, literally, we're buying goods from them while their citizens are making pennies on the dollar. I feel like they have a much better argument for America's ripping us off. And guess what they're telling their people right now? The exact thing. And at least their propaganda is a little bit more based in reality. You know what I mean?
the European Union, it was
And I'm no fan of the Chinese government. I'm not, right? China's cool. China's cool, as a concept, as a country, but the Chinese government is corrupt as well, but they just don't hold a candle to the corruption of this one single old man with a toupee that's transparent, all right? He has to dye his wig hairs, all right? What are we talking about here?
It's terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off. They're not doing that
I
anymore.
want you to think about the boom that this country has had in small businesses, mom and pop Etsy stores, small businesses that
Really?
became
They
big
haven't had a
businesses.
boom because of inflation.
Well,
the boom,
what
the
they've
boom
done
was inflationary boom. The people were wiped out with inflation. I
Yes.
mean, you read the news, you
Yes.
do the business
now
stuff,
they
I
face,
assume.
Now, a lot of them built those businesses on the trading model.
Yeah, and they're gonna
before
make
you.
more money
They
now.
sourced their products overseas, and now they're looking at an extinction
I've
event.
been here.
It's a disaster for them.
I've been here for 3 months. I've taken a trade deficit down to a number that's very, very starting to get really good. I just got
Very, very, it's really, this is second grade stuff. Like, if you turned in a speech to your third grade teacher with the diction of Donald Trump, you'd fail. These are bad words. This is how you know this fool doesn't read books. He didn't write his book. He didn't write the book that he put his name on. You know what I mean? So it's like, he's not a good communicator, He's not. I mean, I'll scratch that. He is a good communicator. He's good at communicating his vibe. He's good at communicating his vibe, People that are actually smart can actually use words to confuse you as to what their vibe is, but he's not smart, so all I can do is just exude his vibe, and people just kind of latch onto that and be like, yeah. No, for sure. We don't need to know the facts. I mean, I trust this guy, because they're gullible. That's the American education system failing yet again.
here. We had a country that it was not sustainable. What Biden did to this country, between the open borders where criminals poured into our country, between every country in the world ripping us off on trade.
No immigrant has ever done anything bad to me, ever, or anyone I know. That's just, we're talking about anecdotal stuff. That's my experience, right? And I live in a border state, by the way.
It was not sustainable.
So your message to those small businesses who are saying, we can't live a month, 2 months with these tariffs. Apple got a big deal. Is there something for them?
No, not only Apple. We've got $7 to $8 trillion being invested in our country in 2 months. Biden didn't have that over.
Stop bringing up Joe Biden. This has nothing to do with Joe Biden. This is a choice that you made in an otherwise stable economy, right? That had its flaws. But crashing the whole thing is not Joe Biden's fault. It's just not. You know what I mean? These are decisions that you made that are having consequences. Stop bringing him up.
For a year, I mean, if you look at Biden, nobody was really investing in this country. Everybody was ripping off our country. Apple's putting up $500 billion, but that's only one of many companies. Companies are flooding into our country right now.
So they are not. They are not. They are leaving. They are leaving. People are dumping American bonds, like, which, you know, I'm no like big brain economist, but I've been hearing that's bad. I don't know. Like, companies are coming here. No. People aren't coming here. People are afraid to even visit the United States. If I'm like, let's say I'm from like Guadalajara, I'm the richest man in Guadalajara. I'm trying to start my business in the United States. I'm afraid to even go and look at land because some Gestapos might throw me in a van and put me in a gulag, yo. This is illogical. You know, this is illogical.
Your answer to the concern about the tariffs is everything's going to be hunky-dory.
Everything's going to be just fine. It wouldn't have been if I didn't do this. I had a choice. I could leave it, have a nice, easy time, but I think ultimately you would have had an implosion.
You know, it's funny that he says that because I don't think Kamala Harris would have radically fixed anything. I don't think she would have. You know, I think she would have made some marginal gains, kind of like Obama did, but I think it would have been largely the status quo. But I would have picked the status quo over this 10 times a day and 30 times on weekends, yo. Because guess what? A Democrat that's at least an adult can keep the America going, right? When Republicans get in and they have all these fancy ideas of how to make life better, which is really just improving life for the wealthy class, right? Things are radically fucked up. You know what I mean? COVID, 9/11, Iraq war. It's like Republicans suck. They're bad at their jobs. Like, why do they keep winning? I don't get it, yo. Because Democrats suck too. But I digress. Whatever. I'm ranting.
Country had inflation that was worse than they've ever had it before. You don't mention that. Why don't you mention that? We had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. People say 48 years. Probably in the history of our country, we had the worst inflation. And people were dying over the inflation. You know that. Now
people are dying now. People are dying now. I mean, this will not get touched on, but like the babies in Africa with AIDS that will die because Donald Trump doesn't want them to have money. Like, I hope their souls haunt him. You know what I mean? I hope hell is real. I hope hell is real.
The grocery prices are coming down. The energy prices are coming down. Gasoline's coming down. It's all heading in the right direction.
Okay, let's move on to immigration.
Coming up.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
Wow.
President Trump, the first 100 days continues.
What the hell?
Okay, let's move on to immigration. And as you said, it is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it.
And so I want to ask
About my message?
methods, about your methods, how you're accomplishing
They seem to
this.
work.
Do you acknowledge that under our law, every single person who gets deported gets a hearing first to make their case?
Well, are we talking about people that are citizens of our country or not?
No, you're not deporting citizens at this point.
Well, let me ask you, did they
At
get
this point.
hearings when Biden allowed 21 million?
What does this have to do with Joe Biden? What does this have to do with Joe Biden? What does this have to do with Joe Biden? I don't get it.
Because I think the number's 20 million people to flow into our country. You had 21 million people that came into our country through a stupid open border, and they were prisoners, and they were people that you don't want in many cases in our country, right? They came from all over the world. They came from the Congo. They came from South. They came from all over the world. We're talking about some of the roughest countries in the world. They had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now,
but
did we give them a hearing when they came in?
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets.
And also, too, before I let that slip, it's like, oh, did we give them a hearing when they came in here? I feel like some people be like, yeah, like we didn't, they weren't following the law, so we don't have to follow the law. But that's objectively ridiculous. Okay, the government has to follow the rules. The government can't be lawless. Okay, individual people can be lawless, right? But the reason why we still have a society at all is because the government is beholden to morality, right? You know what I mean? In theory, I mean, it sounds rich, like, oh, the United States has morals, but it's like that's what laws are for, right? It's enforced morality. Okay, so we can't just suspend that because lawless people are doing lawless things, right? I mean, there's a reason why it's illegal to beat your kids. Your kids could act up. Your kids could act crazy. They could be unreasonable, but you can't beat them anymore, right? Why? Because it's like you're vested with more power and responsibility.
A hearing first.
Well,
do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this. If you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials?
Look at this man's legs shaking and shit. He's like, I can't even keep up with this guy, yeah.
Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to do?
The law
Give
is the
21
law,
million?
sir. The law is the law,
No,
and you are
the law
sworn
doesn't
to
say anything
uphold it.
about trials.
The law is the law, and you are sworn to uphold it. Yo, and again, mainstream media, blah, blah, blah. I know it's not the best. This guy's doing a good job. Like, he's saying the stuff that I would want to be said. So good on this dude.
No, not trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally. They came into our country illegally.
And
We
there's-
have to get them out.
There's a legal process for that.
I can't, sure, and we follow the legal process.
He's not.
I can't have a trial, a major
I'm
trial
not
for
saying
every
major.
person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have.
How do you know that they're murderers if you're not giving them hearings? How do you know that? Like, how do you know that? You're just assuming it. Some, I assume, are good people. It's like every single thing that was like, oh, maybe it's not that big of a deal, or everything that we allow him to let slide, he'll just double back on later. You know what I mean? Like, we can't give these people an inch.
Have murdered people in our country.
Right, so
we have to get them out,
They're
and we have
bad
to get them
guys,
out fast.
really bad guys. But in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard. These are illegal.
There's not. Okay? Everyone in the United States is protected by the Constitution. The Constitution are the rules of the land. They're the laws of the land, not the laws for certain people, right? There are certain special laws that apply to American citizens, like Social Security, like the benefits of being an American citizen, right? I don't think those should be extended to illegal immigrants. Sure, that's fine. Whatever. There's my moderate take right there, but
Legal. They came in illegally.
But they get due process.
Well, they get a process.
They get a process. Their process is get in the van, shut up, you're going to the gulag. That's their process.
Have to get them out. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyers say.
Right. All right, let's talk about the Venezuelans. You deported more than 200 Venezuelans to that prison in El Salvador. You say they're violent, they're gang members, they're terrorists. Many of them don't have a criminal record.
By the way.
They don't have a criminal record. They don't have. Where are the tinfoil hat people? People with no criminal record are getting declared terrorists? Under what authority? Under what authority? Because I said so authority.
At all.
Well,
but I want to.
I'm not so sure about that. If you take a look,
I want to read you something.
Excuse me. When you look at those people, they were violent people.
When you look at those people, look at them. They're Mexican. You know that that's like what he's implying. Like, when you look at these people, they're so Hispanic. Ugh.
They were violent people.
But many of them don't have a criminal record
Go
at this
ahead.
point.
I don't know.
want
That's
to
what
read
you say.
something. Well, it's based
Go
on
ahead.
their lawyer, what their lawyers
Go
have
ahead.
said. Okay.
Go ahead.
Joe Rogan said this. Joe Rogan, one of the leading podcasters, Trump supporter, about the deportation of Venezuelans. He said, quote, rounding up gang members and shipping them to El Salvador with no due process, he said it was dangerous, and added, quote, we got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters.
The way that he read that Joe Rogan quote almost makes him sound smart. Yeah, this Yo, you already know he was practicing this in the mirror. Hey, good point, dog. Good point.
Is
Good
Joe
point,
Rogan
Oppenheimer.
right?
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, we want to be careful, and we are careful.
No, you're not.
We're doing something that has to be done. We have a country that's very sick. Joe
Yeah,
Biden,
they elected you.
and it's not him because I don't even think he knew what the hell was happening. But the people around him are vicious people, and what they've done to the country is unbelievable. They've allowed 21 million people to pour into our country. Many of these people are criminals. They've allowed you mentioned Venezuela, the jails of Venezuela to be emptied into the United States. Do you know Venezuela crime is way down? Way, way down. You know why? Because they're criminals.
Because they have a dictator in charge. That would be my assumption. And I don't even know if that's true. I mean, you can't even take anything he says at face value. Like I read this comment on Reddit one time where it says if Donald Trump said it was raining, I would go outside to check for myself. Like that's the kind of dude he is, yeah.
Are now living happily in the United States of America, and we're getting them out. And I was elected to get them out, and we're getting them out.
Under the law.
And we're getting them out fast, and we're
I disagree with you, Oppenheimer. I don't think he was elected to get them out legally. I think the people that voted for him knew good and well that he wasn't going to follow the law. But they just operated under the assumption that he would break the law against people that they don't like, or he would break the law against people that they feel like don't deserve legal treatment, right?
getting them out legally. Now, in some cases, we have judges. In some cases, they're radical left judges. What happened the other day where a judge was protecting a criminal?
And what Donald Trump's doing is actually very clever right here, because he knows that people don't trust the judiciary, right? Especially after all the goons that he put in the Supreme Court. After all the goons he put in the Supreme Court, people are starting to understand. It's like, wow, like, should judges have such unilateral power to decide what the law is? So he's building off of that distrust to say, oh, you guys hate judges, right? I hate judges too. I hate judges too. Shouldn't the will of the American people be done despite what judges interpret the law to be, right? But here's the difference. He is resisting judges trying to give people human rights versus the Supreme Court using their power to take human rights away, but that's a distinction that you would need to watch the news consistently to even understand. And most people are brain rotting, watching on TikTok, Milk Boys, whatever the fuck they watch. Like, it's incredible how little people know what's going on right now.
It was horrible. And I think she's got big problems, frankly.
And
there are a couple of them like that.
I want to talk about one
Wait
man.
a minute.
Yep.
We have to be treated fairly by judges. And we're not being treated fairly by all judges.
Oh, that's a subject. So you're saying that you don't like some of the rulings, some of the court orders?
I think the rulings will be overturned, yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you about one man and one court order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not have said that, and just say...
Even though it was objectively true. I mean, and guess what? He's doing the classic Trump tactic of throwing people under the bus, very well known by celebrities of all stripes. But why did he say that? I agree with Donald Trump. It wasn't a mistake, but the lawyer said that because if he said, we chose to break the law, he wouldn't be a very good lawyer, right? It was kind of a lose-lose situation for this guy that's almost certainly fired by now.
Understand, the person that you're talking about, you're making this person sound... This is a MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in...
This guy's from El Salvador. Is MS-13 even in... Is MS-13 even in El Salvador? Yes, MS-13 is still present in El Salvador, although its influence and power have been significantly reduced due to the government's crackdown on gangs. Interesting.
In lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified.
Beat the hell out of his wife, huh? Beat the hell out of his wife, huh? You know that his ex-wife that fell down some stairs, or however they're presenting that she died, that he buried on his golf course, literally wrote a book about Donald Trump abusing her, right? You know, he has like dozens of credible allegations against him, right? Like this is no friend to women, all right? He's just not. He's just not. If Kilmar beat 1,000 women, I feel like he still would have caused less harm to femininity than Donald Trump, all right? For real. And his wife said that was bullshit. You know what I mean? So take from that what you will.
To even talk about him, okay? This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from
I'm
Maryland.
not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands.
Came
Smart.
into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and
I
with
could.
all the
So this is Donald Trump literally admitting that he's defying a Supreme Court order. And man, it was exciting when he did that last week because I was like, oh man, something's gonna kick in. You can't do that. You can't defy the Supreme Court. You can't do that, right? So okay, cool. Something's gonna happen. Nothing's happening. The Supreme Court justices aren't even putting out statements, even the ones that I like. You know what I mean? My mom actually met Ketanji Brown Jackson when she did this talk in New Jersey. And even Ketanji is not even saying nothing. Even she's not saying nothing. Like, these people need to get in front of some cameras. Like, what's going on is a fascist takeover of the United States. Why are you a judge? You're supposed to uphold the law. Like, what do you know what I mean? And it's they're losing their power and they're not even saying anything. And why would they? They have lifetime appointments. Like, you know what I mean? They're probably like, let me just not rock the boat so I can keep my retirement, yo. It's disgusting, yo.
power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
Okay, so I only follow the law when I like the people that the law is being applied to. You know, that's just, you know. I mean, that's the conservative mentality. Like, the law only applies to people that you don't like. You know what I mean? If you look at, like, police officers trampling human rights, oh, you know, these are criminals, so whatever. You know, cops can break the law. It's not a big deal. It's ridiculous. Oh, my God.
The court has ordered you to facilitate that.
Ordered you. They ordered you,
making
fool.
this
They ordered
decision.
you.
We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No.
No. The buck. No. The buck. No. So they try to get. They try to give me the buck. They try to give me the buck. But then I refuse to hold it. I said, this is terrible. This is Terry. This is a really, really bad buck. It's an awful buck. It's an awful buck. So what I did. I told the lawyers. I passed it. I passed the buck. I passed the buck. Don't give me the buck. Don't give me the buck. The buck doesn't stop with me.
You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to...
I am the king. Listen, Oppenheimer. I am the king. I am the king. The Supreme Court, I am above the Supreme Court. Like, you know what I mean? Just say it, bro. I gotta respect him more if he was like, mwahahaha. Like, I respect that way more than him even keeping up this artifice. And guess what that also kind of gestures to? Him being a giant coward, right? Because he knows, all the people in his cabinet know that what he's doing is defying the rule of law. But he's still being a pussy about it. Like, he's still being a pussy about it. He's like, oh, I follow the rules. I follow the rules. Like, no, you don't. Like, just admit that you don't. Like, you're not fooling anybody. You know what I mean? And guess what? Your supporters wouldn't even care if you said I'm not following the rules. Like, you know, he's just scared. He's just scared about what could potentially happen to him, even though he knows nothing can happen to him. He's just scared. He's just scared. He's a little baby.
Take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out
Donald
to be
Trump's presidency is an
incompetent, that
unforced
you
error.
always said
This is
was
crazy.
wonderful, great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my #1 issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue.
It was up there.
I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened. And it happened.
Yeah, all we had to do is just send some people to some concentration camps, and now people don't want to come here. Isn't that a miracle? Isn't that crazy? I'm such a good president. Oh man, I don't even know.
Very quickly. Wait a minute. When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the
do that.
letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That
just...
was Photoshop, Terry. You can't do that. Hey,
What an idiot. What an idiot. And if, for you guys that don't know, it's like he had a weed leaf smiley face cross skull. That's MS-13. The marijuana that's the M, and then the smiley face, that's the S, right? And then the cross, that's the 1, and then skulls mean 3. What an idiot. MS-13 tattoos. Let's see. All right. Here's some MS-13 tattoos, right?
So let me
that
just...
was Photoshop, Terry. You can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you.
I never heard of you. Man, I miss the days when I never heard of him, yo. Like, I miss those days.
Terry, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry.
How is this not like the most nice way that you can ever approach talking to a literal fascist, okay? Like, I would almost argue this is a softball interview. I mean, he's being very soft with him. Like, you know what I mean? He's not being rude at all. That's the thing that I hate, like, more for my personal life. It's like when you're kind and right and you're calling people out, people will just claim that you're rude anyway. You might as well just be a dickhead because he's gonna call you a dickhead anyway.
Do you want me to show you the picture?
Please.
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it was Photoshop? Well,
Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine,
No,
sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in
All right, this is literally the dumbest thing that probably anyone has ever said in the Oval Office, right? So Trump is literally saying, that this photoshopped MS-13 designed to demonstrate what these wingdings are supposed to mean were actually tattooed on his knuckles. He's literally such an old man that he thinks that this is literally on his skin. That's so dumb. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's like an old man level of dumbness. Like, you know, it's like Joe Biden is incompetent. I feel like Joe Biden would know that his knuckles don't literally have MS-13 on them.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're
in
now.
your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
You're just digging the hole deeper for himself. You're like this is so confidently incorrect. Like it's almost impressive. It's almost impressive you could be this wrong.
Okay.
Well, we'll take a look.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say yes, he does, and go on to some.
Why don't you just say, yeah, I'm right? Like, I'm the king. Like, why can't you just say, yeah, I'm right, yo? Like, why are you so allegiant to facts? You know, this is the chance of a lifetime, bro. And ultimately, this is kind of Weinstein mentality, where it's like, okay, I'm in the right because I have the power to make your life good. Here I am raising your profile by being the president and giving you the honor of speaking to me. So why are you going so far out of your way to hold me accountable? Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're killing the vibe here, Oppenheimer. You're killing the vibe.
Something else.
It's contested. Ukraine.
Coming up, the Russia-Ukraine war
Don't
You
forget,
think he wants
this
peace?
is a
You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
and that historic meeting. President Trump, the first 100 days continues.
I want to turn, I was just in Rome, and to that moving photograph of you and President Zelensky sitting in St. Peter's Basilica talking peace. It went around the world.
Sure.
Take us into that moment.
Well, look, the Ukraine is a very serious, very tough situation. And this is Biden's war. This is not my war.
Tell us about this moment that you had with this leader following the death of Pope Francis. Well, you know, Joe Biden.
But I want to see if I can solve it, because probably close to 5,000 young soldiers a week are being killed, Russian and Ukrainian. We also spend a tremendous amount of money in Ukraine, and Europe should be spending much more than us. They're not. They're spending much less. It's been badly handled by the Biden administration. It's been badly handled all the way around,
I mean, I think there's definitely some flaws with like the way. First, there's many flaws with the Biden foreign policy, right? Like, I'm not saying that there's not, but I mean, I don't really know what I would want Joe Biden to do differently. You know, it did concern me that we were basically in a proxy war with Russia. I think that's probably a step too far, but facilitating the survival of a democracy in Europe when other nations are threatening their sovereignty. I don't think that's a bad move. And it's kind of like and yes, it's kind of like Team America World Police. Like, here we are, like, solving other people's problems. But I would want to live in a world where bullies are stood up to, right? America's been a bully in the past, so it's like a bully bullying a bully. I liked it. Personally, I liked it. I don't know if I would have gone that far, but I'm glad that, you know, the nations were stepping up to try to protect Ukraine.
Moment.
The moment was a moment of solace, in a sense, because tremendous numbers of people are dying. A lot of his people are dying. They're being killed. And I feel very badly about it. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president.
Oh my
and it
God.
didn't happen for 4 years. It was never even a thought of it happening.
It does feel like something's happening after that meeting with Zelensky in St. Peter's. You posted this on social media. There was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas and cities and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe...
Well, that was part of my post, but you're right. That was a part of a post.
And
yes.
it says, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along.
Yeah, that's possible. Sure.
He might be...
That's obviously what's happening, you idiot. That's obviously what's happening. The war didn't happen while it was under you because he knew, like... Because Putin just sensed the instability. Like, you know what I mean? Trump got elected the first time. Putin was like, all right, well, America isn't completely corrupted now. You know? I don't know. I truly do feel like Putin was just biding his time to try to rile up the American people so they can bring Trump back in and then he could really cut loose. That's my opinion. Then my tinfoil hat conspiracy, I guess.
He could be tapping me along a little bit.
A little bit.
I would say that he would like to stop the war. I think that if it weren't for me, I think he'd want to take over the whole country, personally. I always felt...
He does want to take over the whole country, you dummy. Like, that's why he's invading it. Like, of course you... you think if Ukraine rolled over that they wouldn't just take all of Ukraine? Like, holy moly.
So, when I left, there wasn't even a chance that this would happen. When
Arguably.
Biden got involved,
Arguably.
I won't say whether or not he handled it properly, but obviously it wasn't good because the war started.
I won't say whether or not he handled it properly, but obviously he did a bad job. Okay.
Putin went in, the war started. I believe that Putin wanted to get all of Ukraine once he went in. And I think part of the reason he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan, how incompetently Milley and all these guys handled that. It was one of the greatest embarrassments of our lifetimes, but maybe in the history of our country. Okay, so Putin went in. I think Putin wanted all of Ukraine.
Right.
I think if I didn't win the election, he would have gotten all of Ukraine. I think he would have taken all of Ukraine. I think his first choice...
I'm no war journalist, but I'm pretty sure that Ukraine's doing worse in this war now than they were when Joe Biden was in office. It's not like the Ukraine's kicking more ass. Like, it's not like they're kicking more ass. You know, Donald Trump's so capricious. It's like, I don't even know if they're getting the same weapon systems they were getting before.
Never with me. He would have never gone in. With this group of losers, he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan. He said, wow, this is my chance. Because it was always the apple of his eye. I talked to him. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I think he wanted the whole country.
You've said for
And
months
because of me, I do believe that he's willing to stop the fighting. Don't
you
forget,
think he wants
this
peace?
is a,
You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
I think he does, yes.
I think he does. I think he does. You know what I mean? He invaded the country, but he did it in a very peaceful way. You know what I mean? He shot first in a peaceful way. You get what I'm saying, Oppenheimer?
Yes, I think
Still.
he does. I think
Even with
because
the
of me,
raining missiles
I
on.
think he really his dream was to take over the whole country. I think because of me, he's not going to do that.
Do you trust
I
him?
think-
Do you trust him?
I don't trust you. I don't trust.
Okay, yo, do you trust the dictatorial leader of United States' sworn enemy, Russia? Well, I don't trust you, American journalist. Okay.
I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust you. Look at you. You come in all shooting for bear. You're so happy to do the interview.
I am
and
happy.
then you start hitting me with fake questions.
You know, you were so happy to have an interview with the President of the United States, and then you dare ask him questions about the job that he's doing. I don't trust you. I don't trust you, Oppenheimer.
So tell me.
Yo, oh my God. So like I have a customer service job, and then sometimes you'll just be talking to like a dumbass like this, and you literally need to keep a straight face like this. Like it's called, what I call it is chair charged, right? Because it feels like you're strapped to a literal electric chair. He knows that he has the perfect response to this. Okay, he knows that he has the perfect response to this, right? That he could just tear into Donald Trump. But because of his job, in order to keep his job, he cannot say the most obvious thing here, right? So now he just needs to sit here with his legs shaking and pretend like this person knows a goddamn thing about what they're talking about. I really feel bad for Oppenheimer here, yo.
That a guy whose hand is covered
All
with
right,
a
we're back to
tattoo doesn't have the tattoo, you know.
all right.
I mean, you're being dishonest.
No, I'm not.
Let me
No, I
just
am
tell
not,
you, do I
sir.
trust? I don't trust a lot of people, but I do think this. I think that let's say he respects me, and I believe because of
He really thinks that Vladimir Putin respects him? You think he respects you? You think he respects you? Why? 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 He literally mocks him on television. He mocks him on Russian state media. Donald Trump won't even dare do that. You know what I mean? He won't even admit to an American journalist that Vladimir Putin might not be trustworthy. Because the reality of it is that Donald Trump looks up to Vladimir Putin, okay? He's president for life. All right? When Vladimir Putin doesn't like somebody, he just throws them out a window. Like, Donald Trump thinks that shit is awesome. Like, Donald Trump thinks that shit is awesome. That's why he doesn't want to shit on him. Because it's like, how can you shit on your hero, you know?
me, he's not going to take over the whole. But his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. Okay. It's a war that never should have happened. It did happen because of incompetent people.
Last question on this.
But it never should have happened.
If there's no peace deal, will the U.S. cut off military aid to Ukraine?
I don't want to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I would or not. I want to leave that as a big fat secret because I don't want to ruin a negotiation. But
I'd be worried
I will
if I
tell
were
you, I
Ukrainian.
was not happy when I saw Putin shooting missiles into a few towns and cities, and that was not something that I like seeing, and I thought it was inappropriate. But I think the whole war is inappropriate.
Okay.
Again,
Why does that need a caveat? Why does that need a but? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know, Putin was shooting missiles into civilian territories, and I didn't like it, but why is there a but? Whose side are you on? You're American, fool. Krasnov, dummy.
it's a war that shouldn't have happened. This is a war that if the election weren't rigged, and it was totally rigged, the 2020 election, if it weren't rigged, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have had the embarrassment of Afghanistan. You wouldn't have October 7th with Israel. You wouldn't have had any of the problems that you have right now.
I want to ask one
and
question.
you wouldn't have had inflation either.
All right. I want to ask one question about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. There's a lot of turmoil at the Pentagon right now. There's the signal chat with his wife on it where he's discussing that attack in Yemen. There's another signal chat discussing the attack on Yemen. There's a reporter accidentally involved. You said the other day that you had a talk with the secretary. Did you take him to the woodshed?
I had a talk with him.
Man, let me not even say that. I was going to make an Old Yeller joke, but I don't think That I think that's TOS. So I'm just gonna say that's a very colorful phrase. Take him out to the woodshed.
And whatever I said, I probably wouldn't be inclined to tell you. But we had a good talk. He's a talented guy. He's young.
Talented at what? Talented at what, yo? He's not even talented at being a TV personality, yo. If he was a talented TV personality, he'd be able to duck some of these criticisms a little bit better. He's on the White House lawn, tweaking like an alcoholic, like with the Easter Bunny behind him, talking about how the fake news media is out to get him because he set his wife the Houthi attack plans. Like, you know what I mean? He's not talented at nothing. He is young. He is young. I'll give him that. Like, that's true, I guess.
He's smart, highly educated.
At what?
And I think he's going to be a very good defense, hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100.
And here's the thing. Hegseth is embarrassing the absolute fuck out of Donald Trump right now, right? If Donald Trump is even mildly aware, which he might not be, you know, let's be fair here. He might not be aware of how bad all this stuff is making the American military look, right? But Hegseth is a loyalist. He's a sycophant. He'll do anything that Donald Trump says. So in his mind, he can do no wrong because at the end of the day, it's probably Steve Miller that's pulling the strings here. You know what I mean? As long as there's someone who's a puppet that will do what Trump says, that has no allegiance to the American people, in Trump's book, they're A-okay.
Percent confidence in
I don't
Pete
have
Hegseth.
100% confidence in anything. Okay? Anything. Do I have 100%? It's a stupid question. Look,
It's a pretty important
I
position.
have, no. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
We will.
So,
Yo, Oppenheimer, yo, bars. We will. We'll finish this interview. So shut up, bitch.
Coming up, President Trump on Elon Musk and Doge.
Did Doge go too far, too fast, too recklessly?
President Trump, the first 100 days continues.
You know what? I can't even stand to watch any more of this interview. I mean, 100 days, it's really been quite a ride. It's really been quite a ride. I mean, it's felt like years, but it's also felt like an instant, you know? And we don't even know how much further it's going to go, right? He's not even a quarter through his presidency. He's not even a quarter through. He's not even a quarter through. It hasn't even been a year. It hasn't even been a third of a year, right? And we've already lost so much. You know, my prediction is that we're going to enter some kind of war. There's going to be some kind of depression. And I think there's going to be some more credible attempts to remove him from office. I think things are going to get so extreme that there might actually be a viable possibility, but I doubt it because he's in these early stages just congealing his power and making sure that there's no opposition to him. You know what I mean? The violence will ramp up. He freed all the January 6th terrorists. They couldn't even get to that. Right? We're cooked. That's my take.